Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a figure who, on the surface at least, kind of seems like the historical equivalent of a middle child.
Right, yeah.
You know the type, right? Like, not the rebellious older brother who crashes the family car, and not the baby of the family who gets away with everything either.
Yeah.
Just, the steady one, the one who pays their taxes and shows up on time.
Which honestly, in the context of the kings of Judah, makes him an absolute unicorn.
Totally.
Because usually in these texts, we're dealing with, assassination plots or massive idol worship scandals or just total societal collapse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we are talking about King Jotham today. And I'll be honest, when I first looked at the stack of research for this, I thought, okay, we're looking at 2 Kings, chapter 15, and 2 Chronicles, chapter 27.
Mm-hmm.
Really short chapters. The guy rules for 16 years. He dies. End of story.
Right. It seems pretty brief.
But the more I read, the more I realize Jotham's story is actually, it's incredibly frustrating.
Frustrating. That's an interesting word choice for him.
It is. It's frustrating because it breaks this contract we think we have with the universe.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, we think, good leader plus good morals equals a happy, fixed society. And Jotham is the case study that just says, nope, not necessarily.
You've hit on the central paradox of his reign right there.
Yeah.
We are looking at a dynamic that is honestly painfully relevant to anyone listening right now who is, say, managing a team, raising a family, or really just trying to live a decent life in a pretty chaotic world.
Right.
The core question we're unpacking is this. How can a leader be personally successful and completely righteous while their team...
Or their whole nation in this case.
Exactly. While their entire nation remains completely corrupt.
It's basically the good captain, mutinous crew scenario.
It's a great way to put it.
But before we get to the frustration part, we really have to set the stage. Because Jotham didn't just, fall out of the sky.
No, he did.
He inherited a very specific, very heavy legacy. We have to talk about his dad, Uzziah.
Right. Uzziah, who is also known as Azariah in some of the texts, you really cannot understand Jotham without understanding the massive shadow that Uzziah cast over him.
Yeah, he was huge.
Uzziah wasn't just a king, he was a titan. I mean, he reigned for 52 years.
Which is an eternity in ancient politics.
It really is.
And looking at the notes we have here, this guy was basically the Elon Musk of the 8th century BC. He wasn't just sitting on a throne wearing a crown. He was an inventor.
He was. The Chronicles count specifically mentions that he employed these skillful men to invent engines of war.
Like catapults and stuff.
Yeah, machines to shoot arrows and great stones from the towers. This was absolute cutting-edge military tech for the time.
Wow.
He modernized the entire army, he fortified Jerusalem, and he pushed the borders of Judah all the way down to Egypt.
And he wasn't just a war hawk either. I saw a note in the sources that said he loved the soil.
Yes, he dug cisterns in the desert. He had these vast herds of livestock, vineyards in the mountains. He basically built an economic superstate. So when Jotham takes over, he isn't inheriting some fixer-upper of a nation.
No.
He is inheriting a Fortune 500 company at its absolute peak.
Which sounds great on paper, but usually, when you inherit something that massive, the only place to go is down.
Exactly.
Plus, Uzziah didn't exactly stick the landing at the end of his life, did he?
No, he definitely didn't. And this is the trauma that likely defined Jotham's early life.
Yeah.
Because Uzziah became so powerful that the text says his heart became proud. He decided the normal rules just didn't apply to him anymore.
As powerful people often do.
Right. So he walked right into the temple to burn incense, which was a job strictly reserved for the priests.
Not the king.
Exactly. And when the priest tried to stop him, he got furious. And right there in the temple, leprosy broke out on his forehead.
That is just a horror movie scene.
It really is.
Just imagine the most powerful man in the world rotting right in front of everyone because he just wouldn't stay in his lane.
Precisely. And because of that leprosy, Uzziah had to live in isolation for the rest of his life.
Wow.
So Jotham actually spends years strictly serving as the regent. He's running the house while his father is technically still alive but locked away, suffering the consequences of overstepping his boundaries.
That just has to mess with your head.
Oh, absolutely.
You're running the entire country, but your dad, the great Uzziah, is this living cautionary tale in a separate house.
Right.
So then Jotham takes the throne officially. And usually, historically speaking, the son either completely rebels against the father or just copies him blindly.
Uh-huh.
But Jotham does this weird middle path.
It's a very calculated path. The text says Jotham did what was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Uzziah had done.
Okay.
So he keeps the administration, he keeps the strength, the stability, but then there is this crucial caveat in the text.
What's that?
It says, however, he did not enter the temple of the Lord.
Ah. He kept the features, but fixed the bug.
Exactly. He learned from his father's specific failure. He respected the boundary.
Right.
And if you look at his building projects, you see this intense focus on boundaries everywhere. He builds the upper gate of the house of the Lord.
Which is symbolic, right? Like he's saying, I'm going to build the gate, I'm going to make it beautiful, but I am not going through it to do a job that isn't mine.
It shows incredible restraint. And that restraint is actually the key to his strength.
Interesting.
There is this one sentence in 2 Chronicles 27.6 that I really think is the thesis statement for his whole life.
Lay it on me.
It says, so Jotham became mighty because he prepared his ways before the Lord his God.
Yeah, I circled that word when I was reading prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I know, it feels a bit, boring, like meal prep or something.
It's deceptively simple. The Hebrew word there is kun, K-U-N.
Oh, dude, kun, okay.
It means to be firm, to be stable, to establish. It's not just about making a to-do list for the day. It's about setting a fixed trajectory. Think of it like a pilot locking in a flight plan before the plane even takes off.
Okay, so he's not just reacting to whatever random crisis pops up that morning.
Right. Once the storm hits or the political pressure really ramps up, Jotham wasn't deciding what to do in the moment.
He already knew.
Exactly. He had already decided that on the ground. He had established his ways.
Wow.
And that consistency is what made him mighty. It wasn't raw charisma, and it wasn't just his dad's old war machines. It was his internal alignment.
Which brings us to the part of the sources that honestly drives me crazy.
Let's hear it.
Because if you have a CDO who is prepared, who's steady, who's righteous, and respects boundaries,
the company should be thriving.
Right. The culture should be amazing. Everyone should be happy and doing the right thing.
You would definitely think so. But this is exactly where the text drops the hammer.
Yeah.
Jotham did everything right. But verse 2 says, the people still acted corruptly.
The people still acted corruptly. That just feels like a slap in the face.
It's jarring.
What exactly does that mean practically? Were they just cheating on their taxes or what?
It was much deeper than that. In 2 Kings, the text specifies that the high places were not removed, and the people still sacrificed and burned incense on the high places.
Okay, we need to unpack high places for everyone.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of people picture, like, a satanic temple in the woods or something.
Right, yeah. It wasn't necessarily foreign gods, though, to be fair. That was often part of it.
Right.
But primarily, it was unauthorized, decentralized worship. Yahweh had given very specific instructions. Worship me here, in the temple in Jerusalem, in this specific way.
Got it.
The high places were basically convenience religion. It was DIY spirituality.
Ah, I see.
It was people saying, I'll worship God, sure, but I'll just do it on this nice hill near my house and I'll do it my own way.
So Jotham is down in Jerusalem, strictly following the protocol, respecting the temple boundaries.
And his people are up in the hills just making it up as they go along.
Exactly. It's a massive structural disconnect.
Yeah.
The leader is completely orthodox, but the people are chaotic.
That's the perfect word for it, chaotic.
But hold on, I really have to push back here for a second.
Go for it.
Because if I'm a shareholder and the CEO stands up and says, hey, I'm personally super ethical, I follow all the rules, but my entire workforce is committing fraud and embezzling money.
Right.
I'm not patting that CEO on the back for his personal morals. I'm firing him.
Sure, in a modern corporate setting.
Right. Isn't it Jotham's actual job as king to fix the culture? If nobody is following you, are you even really leading?
That is a very modern, results-oriented instinct we all have. We tend to judge leadership entirely by the compliance of the followers.
Yeah, we do.
But the biblical text, and honestly, a lot of ancient history, is far more nuanced than that.
How so?
Well, Jotham couldn't force their hearts to change. He simply didn't have the power to micromanage every single hill in Judah.
So what did he do then? Did he just ignore the problem?
No, not at all. Look at what the sources say he built. We already mentioned the temple gate, right? Well, he also did massive construction on the wall of Ophel. He built entire cities in the hill country and fortresses in the forests.
I just assumed those were for standard military defense.
They were military, yes. But think about the underlying symbolism of that action.
Okay.
He is surrounded by a culture that is actively rotting from the inside out. He knows he can't stop the rot in their hearts.
Right.
So what does he do? He builds walls. He builds fortresses. He strengthens the physical structure of the nation.
Wow.
It's almost as if he's saying, I cannot force you to be righteous, but I can make this nation safe. I can create a secure container of stability, even if the contents inside are completely volatile.
That is, I mean, that's kind of tragic, isn't it?
It is.
It's like he's building this sanctuary for himself and the few people who actually care, while everyone else is just partying up on the high places.
It's deeply tragic, but it's also incredibly resilient leadership.
Yeah.
Think about it. A weaker leader would have looked at the polling numbers, so to speak, and said, well, the people really love the high places.
Right.
If I want to be a popular king, I should probably go burn some incense on the hills too. Let's just meet the people where they are.
The classic, if you can't beat them, join them strategy.
Exactly. It's populism. But Jotham refused to do that.
He held his ground.
He maintained his distinctiveness. He stayed at the temple gate, even when the masses were up in the hills. He simply refused to let the corruption of the majority dictate his own personal integrity.
So the lesson for you as a listener there is basically, you are solely responsible for your own prepared ways, not for the reaction of the crowd around you.
Yes, absolutely. You control the input. You cannot control the outcome regarding other people's choices.
Okay, so Jotham is dealing with this massive internal rot. He's the good king of a bad people.
Right.
But then, just to make things infinitely worse, the external world decides to catch fire too.
It really does.
And this is where we definitely need some history help from you, because the text throws out these two names, Rezin and Pekah. And to me, it just sounds like a bad personal injury law firm.
It really does sound like that. So Rezin was the king of Syria, or Aram in some translations.
Okay.
And Pekah was the king of Israel, which was the northern kingdom at the time.
Right. Israel and Judah were split.
Exactly. And to understand why these two guys matter, you really have to look at the broader geopolitical map.
Lay it out for us.
There was a massive bully waking up in the east, and that was the Assyrian Empire.
The Assyrians, they were basically the Death Star of the ancient world, right?
They were absolutely terrifying. They were expanding rapidly, and they were notoriously brutal.
Okay.
So Syria and Israel, the immediate neighbors to the north of Judah, were naturally panicking. They decided the only possible way to survive was to form a coalition.
Team up to fight the big guy.
Right. They said, let's team up and fight Assyria together.
And they needed Judah to join their club.
Desperately, they needed Judah's army and Judah's money. Remember, Uzziah had built that massive military machine we talked about.
The catapults.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rezin and Pekah looked south at Jotham and said, we need those catapults. You have to join us.
And Jotham just said no.
Jotham said no. His policy, his prepared way, was generally to trust Yahweh and absolutely not get entangled in these messy foreign alliances.
So how did they take that?
Rezin and Pekah didn't take no for an answer. They decided their best move was to invade Judah, remove Jotham by force, and put a puppet king on the throne who would do exactly what they wanted.
Man. So this wasn't just some minor border skirmish over land.
Not at all.
This was a full-blown existential threat. They were coming to wipe out his entire dynasty.
Correct. This is known historically as the Syro-Ephraimitic War.
Okay.
And Jotham is now being squeezed from both sides. Inside his walls, his own people are corrupt and ignoring God.
Right.
And outside his walls, two huge armies are marching toward him simply because he refused to compromise his principles.
That just feels incredibly unfair to him.
It does.
I mean, he's the one guy doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And here's where the source material gets really, really weird.
I know exactly the verse you're going to bring up.
Yeah, because it doesn't say, oh, bad luck sent Rezin and Pekah.
No.
2 Kings 15.37 specifically says, in those days, the Lord began to send Rezin and Pekah against Judah.
The Lord began to send.
Please explain that to me. Because Jotham prepared his ways. Jotham is the undisputed good guy in this story. Why on earth is God sending a geopolitical hit squad after him?
It really stops you in your tracks when you read it, doesn't it?
Completely.
It completely dismantles our karma theology.
What do you mean by that?
You know, the idea we all secretly hold that if I'm a good person, my life will naturally be easy.
Yeah, I want the righteousness shield. I want to believe that if I lead with integrity, my competitors won't attack me and my life will be smooth.
We all want that. But here, the external pressure is explicitly ordained by God. And based on the sources, there are two critical ways to look at this.
Okay, let's break them down.
First, you have the nation itself. The people are deeply corrupt. They are actively chasing after foreign gods on the high places.
Right.
In the ancient theological worldview, That kind of national rebellion invites divine discipline.
Okay, that makes sense for the people.
But Jotham, unfortunately, is the captain of a ship that is steering directly into a storm because his crew is mutinous. He simply doesn't get to miraculously escape the consequences of his nation's collective choices.
So he essentially just suffers collateral damage.
Partly, yes, but there's a second, deeper layer to this.
What's that?
Think back to Jotham's prepared ways.
The flight plan.
Exactly. He built those massive fortifications. He strengthened the army. Most importantly, he established his internal character.
Right.
So what if this impending war wasn't actually a punishment for Jotham at all, but rather a test?
A test.
Yeah. Imagine God saying, you prepared your ways. You spent years building these walls. Okay, let's see if they actually hold.
Oh, wow.
Because strength that is never tested isn't really strength at all, is it?
No, it's just potential.
Exactly. Jotham had prepared for this exact moment, and when the intense pressure finally came, he didn't fold.
He didn't cave to the pressure.
He didn't panic and join the Syrian alliance. He didn't sell out to Assyria either, which, spoiler alert for later biblical history, his son Ahaz immediately does the second he gets the chance.
Oh, yikes.
But Jotham stood his ground.
So the blessing for him wasn't the absence of a war.
No.
The blessing was having the capacity to handle the war without losing his soul in the process.
That is perfectly stated. And look closely at the timing mentioned in the text.
Okay.
It says the Lord began to send them. This was happening right at the very end of Jotham's life. He literally died with these two armies marching toward his borders.
Wait, really? He didn't even get to see the end of his own movie.
No, he didn't. He spent his final years watching the storm clouds gather, knowing full well the invasion was coming, holding the line with everything he had, and then he passed away before the resolution. He had to pass the pending war straight on to his son.
That requires a completely different kind of faith.
It does.
It's one thing to bravely fight a battle that you end up winning. It's another thing entirely to hold the door shut against a Category 5 hurricane, die while holding the door, and just have to trust that the lock is going to hold after you're gone.
It's incredible. It frames his entire life as one of profound endurance. He really is this transitional figure who just refused to let the bridge collapse on his watch.
Yeah.
He didn't fix the people. He didn't miraculously stop the war, but he kept the lamp burning. He kept the royal line of David intact. He handed a sovereign state over to his son, not a defeated vassal state.
It really changes how I view the concept of success.
How so?
Well, if you look at a spreadsheet of his life, Jotham's reign ends with a corrupt populace and a looming double invasion.
Right.
On paper, to a modern analyst, that looks like a failure. But the text definitively calls him mighty.
Because he mastered the only variable he could actually control.
Himself.
Exactly. Himself. He didn't let the deep corruption of his people make him corrupt, and he didn't let the sheer aggression of his enemies make him fearful or reactive. He was a rock in a landslide. The landslide was still happening all around him, but the rock didn't move.
I think that's the part that is really going to stick with me. The landslide was still happening.
Yeah.
We spend so much of our energy trying to violently stop the landslide,
We do.
trying to change our boss or change our spouse or fix the entire political climate. And sure, we should absolutely try to make things better where we can.
Of course.
But Jotham's prepared ways suggest that sometimes the real victory is just standing.
Standing is an active verb. It takes so much clear vision and honestly more muscle to just stand still when everyone else around you is either running off to the high places or panicking about the Assyrians.
So if we're wrapping this up for you, the listener, who might currently be feeling like you're the only sane person left in your office or your family or your community, what's the ultimate takeaway here?
The takeaway is the flight plan. Prepare your ways. Do not wait for the crisis to hit to decide who you are. Do not wait for the people around you to agree with your morals to decide who you are. Jotham proves, across thousands of years of history, that your environment does not have to dictate your character.
And also, maybe cut yourself some slack if you haven't managed to save everyone around you.
Absolutely. Jotham was a genuinely righteous king over a profoundly wicked people.
Yeah.
That disconnect is allowed to exist in life. You are not responsible for the high places you didn't build and don't have the power to tear down. You're only responsible for the gate you did build.
I really love that. Tend to your gate.
Tend to your gate.
Which honestly leaves us with a pretty heavy question to chew on.
What's that?
Think about Jotham's paradox. If you do everything right, if you prepare your ways and tend to your gate, And those you lead still go entirely wrong.
No.
Have you failed as a leader, or have you succeeded as an individual? Where does the line between personal integrity and collective responsibility actually lie? It's something to think about the next time you feel responsible for a landslide you didn't start.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Make sure your flight plan is locked in.
Always. Thanks for diving in with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.